It is dark and it is creepy, looking into the soul of a serial killer through a profile policeman detective who also writes books about serial killers, an up-and-coming star headlining the film. This is 1997. Ashley Judd, Morgan Freeman, Cary Elwes, Richard T. Jones, Kiss the Girls. Relatively beginning her period of fame from appearing on Star Trek The Next Generation as Ensign Robin Leffler, Ashley Judd was going to be the next big thing. For a while she is. She's in a whole string of films and then she disappears. And you wonder what happened. Only recently, with the tragic death of her mother, have her and her sister been more talking about their own struggles and their life. But Ashley Judd was amazing in this role. She is a doctor that is stalked by a serial killer who likes to keep his women locked up like slaves in a dungeon. The dark mind of a twisted soul. From the start of the film, we get a couple different weird aspects about the serial killer. And Morgan Freeman, the policeman detective, travels out of state to where his niece has disappeared from a college campus. Knowing there's a serial killer operating in the area or suspecting it based on the news from the local authorities, he's worried that she has been abducted. He prays that she's still alive. Is she being held captive? Will they find the body? He meets Ashley Judd after she has escaped from being taken by the serial killer out of her own home. She manages to escape from the dungeon. It's one of those 90s women empowerment things that worked because she was practicing kickboxing, she was working out. Her system then is ready to reject the drugs, being that she's a doctor. She has an easier time making her body respond and fumbling her way through the woods and somehow escapes. It does not do any of that weird matrixy special effect sort of thing to make this woman a superhero, but she's just tough and she makes it and she escapes. In the course of the investigation then, meeting all these other characters, I mean, everybody is in this. Tracy Walter, age-old character actor who was Angel in Nash Bridges and was Bob, the Joker's right-hand man when Jack Nicholson was the Joker. You recognize a lot of faces in this, and I didn't try to name all the actors and actresses who appear. As the investigation unfolds, we figure out that there are 2 serial killers on each coast, and they are working in conjunction. Rather than being a bi-coastal serial killer traveling back and forth, there is one of each, and the opportunity to catch them is manifest when they get together and they are in the secret underground dungeon, which we learn dates back to colonial times when the plantation that used to be there had a special place where it locked up slaves. It had a special place underground where they stored things because of the lack of refrigeration. And somehow these things have been condensed into this secret bunker that nobody knew existed. And this is where the women are being held. It's a really fabulous movie and it's very enjoyable and you love everybody's performances. But the thing that really stood out to me is it didn't have the sense of dread that you would kind of expect, but I don't think it's the film's problem. Of the other movies she was in that were similarly of a psychological thriller nature, a lot of movies of that time, I had not seen this when it came out in 97, but they were good movies, and this is in every way a good film. I think we've become jaded. I've become jaded, at least I can speak for myself. Now that we live in a time where over-the-top psychological thrillers added to grotesque and brutal murders is become sort of old hat. It's not a big deal anymore. So back in 97, it's probably not a film. Had I watched it, I wouldn't have watched it alone at night in an empty house. But now it's like, there's like nothing to it. It is not carrying the gravitas now that it did back then, which really puts it in that time period. But everybody does an amazing job. Richard T. Jones, which if you don't know who he is, the Critical Drinker described him in Event Horizon as discount Will Smith. He was sort of a character actor that maybe he could have been bigger, but he kind of just fills in all these secondary roles. A lot of times he's comic relief. In this one, he's a smart college educated guy who helped solve the riddle of where the serial killers are. It's a fun movie. It's a deep movie. And unfortunately, though, it doesn't carry the gravitas it did when it first came out. Nevertheless, I highly recommend it. You can find it on Prime. Ashley Judd back in those days in her prime, and Morgan Freeman, who's always a delight. It doesn't get better than that. Flashback to the 90s. College. Yay. Kiss the girls. See it? Let me know what you think below, and we'll see you next time.